Welcome to Sticking to the Truth with Julian Jackson and Debbie Jansen. Our listeners know that we are Christians. On this program, we want to be compassionate and kind to everyone. So if you do not believe in the Christian faith, we still want to be your friend. Yet, in order to talk about the truth and expose the lies, there's one question we have to answer today. How evil is evil? Yikes. Violence, lies, criminal activity, and awful men and women have been around since Adam and Eve days. Yet there is a core bottom line that signifies deep, sinister evil. Where is that line? And if we could find that line, can we move away from it? Wouldn't that be great? So join us today as we discuss just how evil is evil. Julene, how are you doing today?
Woo! Well, I'm just glad I'm here in my little love shack, all decorated up, trying to combat the forces of evil that are surrounding me. You know, I live right in the nation's capital practically. But for today, I've got Cupid on my shoulder here. The house is just full of Valentines. I'm a seasonally decorated kind of mother. So when you come into my home, you definitely know what month of the year it is. But I've got so much red, pinks, purples going on here, trying to maintain
Looks great.
the Valentine vibe to kind of combat the foolishness that we are seeing out there in the world. You know, I live about 20 minutes from the White House. I know I've told you that. And so I'm just surrounded by people that are really overly negative and dark and really maintain kind of a harmful, I think, attitude, and so you have to try hard. You choose happiness every day, I tell my kids. And happiness is an inside job, right? My man, he's taking me
Exactly.
to the Trump Kennedy Center for Valentine's Day. We're going to the ballet. I mean, we have a lot to celebrate. And so, but I just know that living in the world, especially with people that seem to have a continual cloud over their head these days, who are intent on defending this evil that we're going to talk about today, it's something you have to wake up every day and say, I am choosing happiness. And so I'm so happy to be here today, Deb, with you. We're across the miles, you in Ohio, me in Washington, D.C. How are you doing?
Oh, I've been doing good as well. And Ron and I have been talking about some Valentine plans. And we were just amazed the other day talking about 51 years we've been together. 51 years we've
Oh,
celebrated holidays. And I still love him. And I'm
wow.
also finishing a couple of books, and I've been doing a faith series on my Facebook page. So I hope our listeners will join me for posts about faith on Facebook. But today, let's start our time with a Bible verse, shall we? I think that's important if we're going to discuss evil. Because the Bible talks a lot about evil. In New Testament, Romans is enlightening book. That book is just fantastic. In studying the first chapter of Romans, Paul admits that evil has been around since the beginning of time. He explains that God had revealed his qualities so that the people were without an excuse for what they were doing. Yet the people neither glorified God or gave thanks to him. Their thinking was futile and their hearts were dark. They claimed to be wise, yet they were fools who traded God for images of birds, animals, and reptiles. They exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshiped and served created things rather than the Creator. Well,
Mm,
in verse 28, it's like Paul is living today, I tell you. He
mm.
hits America right between the eyes. And let me quote that verse for you. He says, furthermore, just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, God gave them over to a depraved mind. Now, depraved mind, it just has no logic, no mercy, nothing. And he did that so that they would do what should not be done. Uh, they have become filled with every kind of wickedness, evil, greed, and depravity. And this is Paul talking about his days. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and malice. They are gossipers, slanderers, God haters, insolent, arrogant, and boastful. Sound like anybody we know in the news? They invent ways of doing evil. I can't believe what I'm seeing about what people are doing. They disobey their parents. Now that one got me. Why was that so important to Paul? They disobeyed their parents and they have no understanding, no fidelity, no love, and no mercy. Wow. That kind of reminds me of a lot of stuff I've seen in the news. Oh my goodness, Julene. That sounds like a portion of America right now. Some of the crimes that are being committed are so merciless, hateful, mean, unbelievable. Now, I love everyone and I want everyone to have a good life. But how can we go forward when the evil in America is just, well, too evil?
Well, I mean, Deb, it seems like we could be living in Paul's time and not skip a beat, right? What
Exactly.
he is describing rings frightfully familiar. And this just this morning, starting at in 2026, my study, a scripture study, was going to be the Old Testament. So this morning, me and my daughter, are we're in Genesis 6. We're only, 5 chapters out from God creating this most beautiful world, and his children have become so wicked. He says that every imagination of their heart and their thought was to do evil continually. I mean, like they woke up in the morning thinking of new and creative and imaginative ways that they could be bad. And we know ultimately what happened. So we talked about the flood this morning, me and my little daughter in our family devotional. And God promised that he wouldn't flood the earth again, but it does seem like we are living literally in a flood of evil today. I mean, all we have to do is look at the last Sunday, Bad News Bunny. I call him Bad News Bunny, our the Super Bowl halftime performer. I forbid my children. I'm like, no one will be watching Bad News Bunny. I think it was funny how President Trump called him the worst bunny ever or the nastiest rabbit on the planet. Kind of thing. Some variations of the
Yeah.
Bad News Bunny. But, I just think, so many people in my area here in Washington, D.C. held his show up to be such a cultural, inclusive, beautiful show. And I'm thinking, thank goodness he's saying mostly in Spanish because I don't think people understood how
Yeah.
obscene and depraved his lyrics were, talking about body parts and sex acts and drug use. And I mean, all the parents watching the Super Bowl and that show with their kids, I think, would have been stunned to really know what he was talking about. Someone said the other day, people have become so open minded, their brains are falling out. I mean,
Heard that one.
thinking all this cultural unity is just so glorious that we don't even have a full capacity to call right for wrong, wrong from right anymore. And so I do think, Deb, I loved how you quoted some beautiful scripture that Cleon Skousen was written many bestsellers and books, written curriculum that we teach, The Making of America, the 5,000-Year Leap. He said, prophecy is the mold by which history is poured. So when you study prophecy, the Bible, you will understand history of the past and how Satan works today and some of the traps and temptations, and you will be better prepared as you arm yourself with the word to kind of discern Satan's strategies and to avoid these potholes. And it's going to be done within the four walls of your home. That's the first place we start.
Exactly. And when you use that saying about they're so open-minded, their brains are falling out. Yeah, I'm scratching my head about a lot of things I see. I grew up in a time when crime was around, but 90% of suburbs were church-going people who
Mm,
loved America and everything we stood for. Everything was closed on Sunday. I remember that. You had
yeah.
to get gas really fast on Saturday night before they closed, or you weren't driving anywhere on Sunday. And people went to church. They enjoyed large home cooked meals with family, and then we went out and sat on the porches and watched people walk by and talked to people and took a nap on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Those people, those kind of people saluted the flag, refused to cuss, and were willing to die for their neighbor. But now, 41% of America agrees with criminals. They are okay with pedophiles and hurting children. They believe that harmful, disgusting habits are just a matter of freedom choices. So, drugs, prostitutions, and disagreements that end in murder no longer demand jail time. I was reading about and saw the beautiful picture of a young lady who had an argument with her father about Trump, and he shot her.
Mm,
How what kind of evil does that? And some people believe that white lies, stealing, trashing businesses, rape, and beat downs are perfectly okay. No, they want to tout no one should be incarcerated for something as simple as sending a 12-year-old into the dark world of trafficking. I read that. And
mhm.
the person that said that, they are just deranged. Take a breath, Debbie.
That
We
you're
have to fix this so our country and our citizens are safe.
yeah.
And here's the problem I'm having, and I'm gonna throw this in here, get my book, Praying for America and the Army of God, and I'll teach you a lot,
Mm,
and
so
it's
good.
good devotions, but from my viewpoint, I believe America has a biblical problem, and the only solution for a biblical problem is to approach it with a biblical answer. What
Mhm.
do you think, Julene?
Oh, and that's just it. We gotta be teaching these, like, amazing stories of God's hand of protection and strength to our children, to our grandchildren. You know, we gotta get our kids into church so they can be hearing it in Sunday school. Just this morning, so me and my 18-year-old daughter, who, is grown up having a little scripture study in the morning with mom and daddy, and all my kids have. We talked about the flood and how just before Noah and his family got on the ark, God sealed them up and protected them. And, for 40 days it rained, and another 150 days they bobbed around on the water, and they probably thought, "Have you forgotten us? Are we gonna make it?" And then, Noah sends the dove out. We talked about the lessons that, they learned from the dove when the dove came back, 2 times, and then the 3rd time it left. And I reminded her that God not only made a covenant with them when they got on the ark, but then he made a covenant with them when the water subsided and they got off the ark, that he would keep them safe and protected as long as they would walk with God. And this is how we teach our children we're going to move forward in a flood of wickedness, that we make covenants with God. We arm ourselves with the word, and we can be confident and reassured that God keeps his promises and that we're going to be okay, and we're going to have the courage that we need to get on that wall and defend him. I mean, this is what it takes to teach our children to withstand this flood of evil. We arm them up with the truth of God, God's dealings with man then and God's dealings with us now. And I've seen it. Young people that are part of this revival, we saw with Charlie Kirk, they're fearless. They will, they're willing to get on that wall and say, "What do you need me to do, God? I'm here. I want to learn." And it starts with that seed being planted in the hearts by a mama, by a grandma, by an auntie, by a school teacher, by a Sunday school teacher.
You are so right. I agree with you 100%. Changing America for personal prosperity begins in the home with a faith perspective. Home needs to be a place of pure love, strong discipline, an intelligent force for truth, and a moral high ground. Mom and dad need to take that moral high ground so the kids will follow. We need to get back to living a life of purpose and commitment and to living a life of integrity and strength, a life that God created us to live. We've gotten away from that. And we need to get back to not paying so much attention to what the world says, but get centered in on what is my purpose and my commitment, and then do that. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, and, to really be able to discern right from wrong, you gotta be in the Word, right? I mean, prophecy Isaiah told us in end times that, people would call evil good and good evil, and we're seeing that. People are all confused defending drug traffickers, just like you said, and sex traffickers and holding immoral, obscene people up to be heroes and, icons like we saw in the halftime Super Bowl show. It's interesting, Deb. About 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a fellow who works very high up for the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency in Washington, D.C., and he oversees a large swath of agents. And he said a lot of the ICE agents that you see right now on the news and so forth, he said, they worked for me. They worked in our agency for 20 years. These are seasoned men that did dangerous things that, watched the borders and were in situations that were difficult. He said they're 20, 30-year vets who are these ICE agents. And he said now they are being treated like the criminals, the disrespect, the rudeness, the abuse, the harm's way that they put themselves in every day. And he just shook his head in disbelief, like, I know these men. I know the caliber of men that they are. And, it's interesting, Debbie, we're seeing people's hate for Trump justified their love for sin, right? Anything that is opposite of Trump, they love, and they call it compassion, right? But their
Mhm.
compassion or their love really is founded on hate. Their
Yeah.
hatred of the current president is making them defend sin. And when you defend something, you love it, making them love sin. And it's almost like becoming their religion, right? To defend this kind of corruption and evil and immorality and package it as love and unity and compassion. And, the only way we can counter this madness, and I don't know what else to call it, derangement, is to start within the four walls of our home and then spread out into our neighborhoods and communities and churches. What do you think, Deb?
I totally agree, but as you were talking, I was thinking that we really need to define why that is there. And the reason that derangement is there is when you're an evil person and a righteous person. Now, Trump, a lot of people are flopping around about how righteous he is. That doesn't matter.
No.
What he's trying to do is protect Christians and to promote the Christian faith in America and to say that we all need to have some kind of faith that guides us. So he's protecting faith-based people. No matter what denomination or where their faith is at, trying to get at the core good. Well, when you have a person that is trying to do the core good, to present righteous living to a group of people, the evil person in that group is going to fight tooth and nail, because if that person sets up a different way of living, it's going to attack the evil person first. So, what we have to realize is, okay, who is evil? How is this working? And then, are they fighting because they want to protect their quote way of living? If they are, we need to understand what their principle's about. So
Mhm.
I would have to say I think we need leaders who can model a good life in front of us. They need to be honest. They shouldn't be liars. They need to be kind and they need to do their jobs to the best of their abilities. I'm appalled at the politicians that lie and cheat and steal from their constituents. That's all over the news today. And then refuse to genuinely help those who elected them. That's that's awful. But we need pastors who honestly live the life they preach about. How many times have we heard about pastors doing things that they shouldn't be doing? We need respected, honest businessmen who run their businesses in an honest way and try to help people and not hurt them. We desperately need truthful, kind teachers who want to see their students reach educational highs without wanting to change their core beliefs. We need a new generation of dedicated systems or citizens. Let me rephrase that. We need a new generation of dedicated citizens who work to make sure we are living by the principles of our American founders. And everybody wants to yell, oh, the Constitution's in trouble, and this is in trouble, and that's in trouble. Wait a minute. Is it really in trouble? Or are we trying to change that to fit the evil that is going on right now?
Yeah. It seems like when you wake up in the morning and you know from whence you come and who you're seeking approval from and who is giving you purpose and meaning, you behave differently, right? And I'm talking about when you seek your validation vertically, not horizontally from the world, but when you're looking up to the heavens. It's interesting. I was listening to Tony Robbins, that motivational speaker, and I might have mentioned this before, I'm not sure, but it's just left such an impression on me that as he has consulted with the best, CEOs and athletes and presidents of countries, and he identified 6 needs that all human beings have to be certain, to have certainty in their life, security, to have uncertainty, to have a sense of adventure and fun, to be significant, to be important, to be able to grow, to love, and to contribute. So he said, out of those 6 needs that we all have, what do you think the most successful people in the world that he's interviewed, they all inevitably pick the same 2 attributes? Well, what 2 attributes would you pick out of certainty, uncertainty? You want to be significant, you want to grow, you want to love and contribute. What are the 2, would you say, most important um, attributes or needs that you have?
I
Done.
wanna love and be loved, and then I wanna have purpose. I
Yeah.
want to have, something that I'm giving back that I know makes a difference.
All right. So that would be contribute. Well, congratulations. You have in common the most successful people in the world. Because at the end of the day, if their relationships are all skitty wampum, right? The people that they love the most with God, with their spouses, their children, and they're not serving and giving back, they can have all the money, they can have all the title, they can have all the power, they can have all the adventures, they can have all the security, and they will still not be happy. The happiest people, their relationships are strong and they want to help. How can I help? How can I alleviate suffering? And that goes right along with God's first and second commandment, right? You love God and you love others.
Mhm.
And when you love God and you love others, you want to serve Him. You want to serve the people that you love. That is what gives you happiness and purpose. And you see so many people just dark and angry and virtue signaling and grandstanding. And I'm like, if you wake up in the morning and you start off your day praying to God, asking God, how can I help? What work do you want me to do today? You're not going to behave the way we're seeing people behave in the world, or even politicians. The Congress people are just, they're so rude when they are interviewing and questioning some of the Trump administration before. I mean, people should just not talk to one another that way, And
Yeah,
so
I
I
agree.
just, I think it's so interesting that when you know who your creator is, who you worship, who you follow, who gives you meaning, you behave differently.
Yeah. Yes, you do. Oh, Julene, thank you for that. Wow. Yes, I love that. It all comes down to love, and I think that's love of family, love of God,
I do
and
too.
also your purpose. Oh, we appreciate your thoughts today, Julene. I'm going to continue to pray for my family, my children, and my grandchildren. I hope that each one of them will grow to be model citizens of this great country. And I want to encourage all of our listeners. If you do what Julene is doing and do the devotions, my kids are all out of my house, but Ron and I do devotions and we do talk to our children all the time. If enough parents will work to raise better children, this country will thrive. So, my tip for today is be grateful. Think
Mm.
of all the ways this country has given you a good life. Promote that feeling with everyone you meet. And then, if you believe, like Julene and I believe, begin and end each day with prayer. Pray for our country and the next generation. While it's hard to do, don't forget to spend as much time as possible praying that evil will leave our country and abandon the hearts that have been evil's home. Let's trade evil is evil for a new question. How good is God's grace?
We are aligned today because my tip is right along with your beautiful words that, you know, Noah found grace in the eyes of God. I mean, his children were being so wicked, but when Noah looked in God's eyes, he didn't find anger. He found love and grace. And, we how do we find grace? Well, we gotta go to grace, right? We gotta pray. And we not only have to pray, we gotta pray harder. I heard someone say the other day, we gotta pray harder than we're praying. We gotta, like I said, we gotta seek our validation, not from the world horizontally, but from God. We've got to look to the heavens for grace and guidance, and it will come. And I'm telling you, Deb, on May 17th, the president is calling it Rededicate 250, the rededication of our country as
Oh,
acknowledging to the heavens that we are one nation under God. May 17th, it's a Sunday in Washington, D.C., on the mall in Washington, D.C. It will start at 6 a.m. It will be an end at 6 p.m. It will be a jubilee day of all day prayer and praise and thanksgiving. Be there or be square. May 17th. Are you coming, Debbie? You can stay at my house.
I
We'll
will talk to Ron. I was just thinking that while you was talking. That sounds like something I would really love to go to.
May 17th, a day of prayer, a jubilee day of praise and thanksgiving. We got to pray and we got to pray harder.
Aw, I tell you, I love that, and I would encourage all our listeners to go. I hope our listeners have a better grasp of why evil abounds and how we can make our country better. God bless America. Subscribe to this podcast and join us again. You can ask a question or request that we dig into a specific topic by writing Debbie@DebbieJansen.com. And again, thanks to our wonderful producer, Ken Jansen. We could not do this without you, Ken. This is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Julene Jackson, and we hope that you will keep sticking to the truth. We will see you next week.
Bye bye.